how can I help my adult daughter learn how to use coping skills? She's very smart, but usually engaged in self-talk and pacing when she's home. I'm not sure how to reach her effectively, and thank you very much.
Okay. Well, without knowing your daughter better, it's hard to say kind of what level of a challenge this is, right? Like if it's something that's rising to the level of pretty significant anxiety, let's say, or phobias, or things like that, then you might want to actually get your daughter some counseling for that. That's entirely possible. We don't know, but if it maybe isn't quite to that level. Coping skills are a great strategy. It's actually, we're doing a study on that right now, teaching kids coping skills to deal with when their inflexibilities have been violated. So when they have particular rigidities or routines that they have to follow and they're just not able to, we've taught them a variety of skills like deep breathing, counting to 10, imagining that they're in a different place, and a number of other skills that basically just give the child something more productive to do in that moment rather than having a meltdown. Those skills can be taught just like everything else can be taught in ABA, but it's not something you can kind of just figure out on your own. It is something that needs to be taught by professionals who have training and who are qualified in how to teach those particular skills. And that's not even every ABA provider. Most ABA providers actually don't really go into that area very much.
In fact, I was going to throw in, I've talked before on the show that I did cognitive behavioral therapy for my panic disorder as an adult when I got to the point where I couldn't cope anymore. And so, with the right cognitive behavioral therapist, they can help you to re-language what's going on in your head, because that self-talk kind of thing, when you're like, oh my gosh, this is happening, and then you can spiral out of control. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches you to put a different thought in there that rearranges your behavior, really. And which is why they call it cognitive behavioral therapy. That just came to me in this moment. Like, oh, that's why they call it cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, I'll buy a vowel.
And then I have to plug acceptance and commitment.
I was just going to say, I'm so glad you're bringing it up. Talk about that.
Yeah, so we're developing some work in that area. It's an approach to therapy that comes from behavior analysis. It's extremely successful in treating anxiety, substance abuse, depression, chronic pain. It's widely applicable. And basically, it's just an approach to helping deal with your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own private events, we call them in behavior analysis, in a more productive way, so that instead of buying into them and instead of them sort of letting them rule your life, in addition to experiencing them, because you can't really get rid of them, but while you experience them, you learn other ways to behave more productively that are more in line with your values. And so, if, for example, if your daughter spends a lot of time worrying about particular things, rather than, in addition to experiencing that worry, acceptance and commitment therapy would help her identify what else she would like to do in addition to that. So rather than sitting around worrying all the time, it's okay, yeah, I feel worried, but what are my values right now? What would I actually like to get done? Maybe it's go for a walk, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's make a phone call or a Facebook post to my friend, whatever, but something that actually matters, that's in line with my values, and let's just go and do it.
Right.
So if she's interested in learning more about that, she can email us and we can put her in touch with somebody. But there's a great website called the Association for Contextual Behavior Science. And it's, you can Google it, it's easy to find, and they have a registry of trained ACT therapists. Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT is the acronym, and she can search for her zip code or her area or whatever. She might actually be able to find someone there.
And there's a great book too, The Reality Slap.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's actually written by somebody who practices acceptance commitment therapy, and in addition to that, just coincidentally happens to be the parent of a child on the autism spectrum.
That's right.
So that's quite a gift to us in the community.
Yeah, it's an amazing book that I recommend for all parents of kids on the spectrum. The Reality Slap is what it's called. It's equally applicable to if your child is newly diagnosed or not. And it actually doesn't have anything to do with autism, strangely.
Yeah.
It's written for anybody who's dealing with a challenge in their life that's kind of inescapable, that you can't necessarily get out of, but you want to figure out a way to live a more productive, happier, more fulfilling life while you're also dealing with that challenge.